Okay, I'm going to start with the sketch for this and talk you through just some of the things that I'm going to be changing and how I'm going to actually do it. So sometimes you'll find with the reference photo that you can never get just the correct balance of elements in there, or you just want to make it look more interesting. Conversely, you might want to reduce some of the detail in the reference photos. So for this particular photo, I really like the house in the back. However, there is a smaller house in front, like a little shack or something like that, which I do want to move to the side. So I just don't want it to be covering that larger house in the background. There's a few other things as well, so I feel that I just want to make those mountains in the background a little bit larger, hoping to also just get in an indication of some larger trees next to the house, maybe some trees coming in from the side as well, and a figure. So I'm going to get started and just show you how I do this. So firstly, we're going to start off with the sketch, and this is really important because this is part of the planning stage of your painting, and you might be tempted to go straight into the painting, which you can do, and I've done on many different occasions. But if you're just learning and trying to figure out how to, I guess, structure and plan out your painting, this is the best way to do it. So got the frame in, and what I'm going to do is just play with this horizon line a little bit. I think it's just too far down, and I want to get in some wooden posts and things like that. So I'm going to move it just below the middle part of the page, so just below the middle part here. So I'm now going to just get in this house, and I'm actually happy with where it is at the moment. I might get the figure coming in here to the right hand side. But we'll give this a try. So firstly, let's get in the triangular shape of this house to the left hand side like that. I'm just going to do a little bit of colouring in, a little bit of shading, and get in the other side of it like that. So this is going to be pretty bright in the actual painting, light I mean, so we want to go through and just get that bottom part of the house in. There's also a little part of the house here that is illuminated, which we can decide whether we want to add in or just remove later on. So I'm just going to add that in like this. There's some light kind of bouncing off the side of it, kind of similar to the roof there. So a little bit of detail there, a few things on the house itself. But that's the main gist of it. So that's all you need to do. Now this house in the front, this little shack, I feel like it's blocking the way. I'm going to try moving it to see if I can get it. It's looking more closer to the front now, like that. Having a look at the structure of it too. The back kind of goes out like that. There. And that about does the trick. Okay. And so let's have a look what else we might want to add in. I think a tree here would be nice. Just add in this same tree. So just cutting around and getting that in like that. It's kind of just going around the side of this house. And it's quite important, in my opinion, to get some of these darker trees and even some lighter ones here. We've got some darker bits of the roof and things like that, just to create that contrast, and it will make it pop out more. So this is really just a lot of planning and seeing how the painting will look like with some of these shapes and trees, things like that, just added in. So having a bit of a play around, and let's add in a few more trees here. There is also maybe some little shack in the distance here as well. So pop in that rooftop. It's mainly just the rooftop that you can see of these houses, but you don't need to put them in. It's just an option there if you want to. We've got some trees and that sort of thing here. And what I want to do is just add in some mountains kind of running through the back behind the house like this. So pretty straightforward there. And I've made them a little bit higher up as well. And we've got this kind of lake or river, something like that here, which I really like. Could be a marsh or something, I don't know, but I like how it is there, and we might also get some of these trees in, kind of coming up through it like that. One there. There is a larger bush here in the foreground. I think we'll give that a try. Put it in for now. Just having some kind of larger shapes in the foreground like that will also kind of help to frame the picture. And another thing I want to do is get in some little branches coming in from the side there to indicate some trees, which actually isn't in the reference photo, but I just really want to add that in, coming over from the side there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a figure kind of here in the foreground section, and we'll just make it look like they're walking towards the front, something like that. So just walking towards this river or whatever it is there. Maybe they're holding a bag or something like that, just walking through the scene. And one thing to remember, the head will fit 7.5 times into the body. I know people tend to ask me about figures, so that's a little rule that you can use when you're drawing them in. Just try not to make the head too big, and have a look over the proportions after you've drawn it. So you don't want it to be too big, because then it's going to look right at the front, but you don't want it to be too small as well. So you have to look at the house and how far you approximately want the figure and estimate how large you want to draw it in. So one thing I want to do, change things up, I want to add in a little fence or something here. So notice how I realized that was a bit too big and I rubbed it out. So we can do a bit of that fence maybe coming in over here, but as we get into the actual painting, we just want to make it smaller, this little fence like that. So we can just imagine like some little connectors going through like that. Just keeping things interesting, and also I'm hoping that it just leads the viewer into the painting as well. So keeping things a little bit more interesting, and thinking whether we want to get indication of some of these little rows like this, indicate some crops or something just coming out near this house. So just experimenting around a little bit, but then this is going to obviously cause a little bit of an issue here with this lake, which we might reduce down or even cut out entirely. But that's a good starting point, and I'm going to get started now with the painting. So picking up a large mop brush, well, not too large, but just large enough for your painting, I suppose. So something like this. Get in the sky. I'm gonna go grab a little bit of blue, so I'll just grab some cobalt blue. Let's drop that into the sky like that. Okay, and keeping it pretty light as well. We want to preserve that nice light feel in the top part of the painting. You might want to add some darker spots here and there. I've just picked up some paint to add in maybe some indications of clouds and things like that, but don't want to overdo it, just a little bit like that while the paint's still wet. Now I'm going to grab some ultramarine blue and also mix in a tiny bit of purple in here. I've got to be quick because this is really just sketch paper and it dries fast. And I'm going to drop that straight in to the mountains here because I want to get a soft edge for the mountains, and some of it's already dried, so there's not really all that much I can do. But actually having that mixture of soft and sharper looking edges really makes it look more interesting. So I've got that bit of colour in like that, and what I'll do, I'll just add in a tiny bit of yellow onto the top of this house, something like that. A bit of Naples yellow like this. Great. And that's one thing I probably should have done earlier on, just getting in the colours of this house. But I do want a warmer colour running through there. So just keep that in mind later when you're doing your proper painting. And the reason for that is I just want to be able to cut around using that darker blue and leave the yellow showing through. So we'll have to let that kind of dry off a bit, but I'll go into these mountains again and we'll indicate like a sort of second set of mountains coming a little bit closer. Another thing you can do is add on some lighter green and things into this mix as well for some of the trees like that, just very loose shapes, bits of yellow and things like that. I'm going to pick up some sap green and drop that here into the area of the ground where the figure is, that. So just a very light wash of sap green here, and bring that into the foreground. Here comes that bit of the lake, whatever it is. So I wasn't sure whether to include it or not, but we'll give it a try. Just add in some blue here to indicate something going on, like that. And then as we move down the page, just picking up some darker shades of green, maybe some brownish tones as well to add in here. Keep things looking more interesting, and also darker near the front to indicate depth for the painting. Okay, so something like that should do. Give this a really quick dry off. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up a flat brush. This is a number 12 flat brush, and wet this down a little bit. I'm going to grab some ultramarine, a little bit of cobalt actually instead, some cobalt blue. And I'm going to do some sort of cutting around work for this house. So start off around here, go all the way through just to get that roof in, like that. And I might leave out some of this sort of green shrubs and things as well. But the idea is just to have some kind of mountains which are a little bit closer, almost like a second layer of mountains, like that. Now that the other one is dried, and go through, let's have a look how this kind of appears. Great. So just a bit of cutting around work like that, leaving in some of these trees as well. Some bits are just a little bit too light, so I'm going to redo that. But again, I don't want to make this such a big influence as well, just dark enough so that it makes the houses and things look slightly lighter I mean. And what I'm going to do is grab myself a little round brush, start working on the house. Now, neutral tint, something quite dark, And just mix a bit of cobalt blue in there as well. Maybe some brown. Get some nice dark sort of colour to work with. And I'm going to just add in some of this area here, the house. So just getting in a little highlight like that. And going through, I can try just cutting around this bit of the roof, a tiny little area here, like that, just to test what it looks like. There we go. Bottom of the house. Okay, another thing we've got to decide is where we want the shadow to run. So I think we'll just keep it running directly across like that, and we'll get in this one as well. A little bit of a highlight there, just some darkness, and bring a tiny shadow running across to the right hand side. What else have we got? I'm not sure what this is. Oh, it's a tree. I've just forgotten. There's some little houses and things that we put in there, and then some trees as well there. So I haven't really paid too much attention to that area. Okay, so another thing I haven't done, which I think we can probably just get in with some sort of dry brush strokes, is just a little bit of these rows here for the crops or what have you running out from the farm. Now you can also do this wet onto wet, which is what I prefer, but I'm just trying it out now. Let's have a look to see how it looks like, kind of wet on dry. A little more obvious and stated. I'm going to pick up a larger round brush. This is a number 8 round brush now, and go through to add in some of these other trees and bushes, some things in the foreground. We've got a larger bush here, so just darken up this area more. Here near the foreground, it's really important. Another thing I want to do is also get in indication of these branches coming in, so have a bit of fun with that. See what they look like. Great. Just in a few little brush strokes, and you can go back in, reinforce them as well, like that. But I like this sort of framing effect that this is having on the painting. Even here I might turn this into a little bush or something like that too. Here. And we've got, of course, these wooden poles which are running through the painting up to the front. So just darkening these down. Not much detail at all, just a tiny bit of detailing like that. Let's get in some colour on this figure. Doesn't really matter what colour, but I do think darker would be better to help them to stick out more. For the legs, I'm just going to get in a very quick indication like that. And, there we go. Her head there, and we can just indicate a shadow running to the right like that. Great. Sort of thinking later on, for the proper painting, I do want to just get in some more details and smaller, maybe some little bits and pieces here in the ground as well that might help out the painting, but we can still going to dry brush bits and pieces in like that. Connect up this fence. Just use a smaller round brush. That kind of some shadows that we can indicate as well. There we've got trees off in the distance, like that, and I can just get some more green to add on to it. Oops, like that. Just a little bit of green, and like this to indicate some trees and even some darker spots we can just play around with behind the house to see what it looks like. Say if we added a tree here. So you want to try these little things on your sketch. You don't want to wait until you're doing your full-on painting before you start experimenting with this type of stuff, because by then if it doesn't work out, it's too late. You've got to stick with it. Okay, looking good. Add some little details onto the house. That, maybe some darkness underneath the roof, additional windows, a door here. You can do the same for this one as well. Oops, gone up a bit too high. That. Let me think what else we might want to add in. Some birds. Think about this. Okay, great. Some little trees. That kind of thing. Okay, I'm kind of happy with how that looks. So, you know, what we can even do is get in another tree running to the left-hand side to see what it looks like, but really we don't need to do that. It's just a experiment to see. You know, I just want to give it a try before we do the actual painting. If it balances out or looks better or worse, that kind of thing. So this one's a bit more detailed. I'm just going to get some of these branches in like that. Okay. So something like that. Okay. It doesn't look too bad there. Get a light wash of blue just running into the foreground here. Like that. This just indicates some shadows being cast by the tree, who knows what. So that it makes sense. Okay. Experimenting around still, maybe some posts here near to the lake could be good to just have this kind of continuation of some of the posts on the other side, like that. Maybe we can add a second figure here, darker paint. Like this. Make this one a bit darker as well. Okay. I might leave that as that and use that as the kind of planned picture planning uses as the, might leave it as that and refer to this as well as the reference photo for the actual painting after. Okay, so we're going to get started on this one now, and really I'm quite liking how the sketch turned out, and I don't think I've changed too much of it. I've planned out just some of the houses being in different areas, this little shack maybe further back and to the left, though I'm going to just leave the water in and also add in a few trees, some mountains and things in the background. So let's go ahead and get in the horizon line. I did like around where I put it before, so just below the middle part of the paper. So just pop that in there like that, pretty quick. And we've also got these mountains and things coming in the background. But before we get those in, I just want to make sure that I have the house, just enough detail of the house here. So popping in the bottom part of the house, and now we're just going to get in some details for the roof. So just like that there, move that across like that, and it kind of just comes down like that, the bottom of the house coming out here, and this bit here to the front as well. So just get that in like that, and also this little shack to the left hand side, I might just still keep it near the front, but we'll get the roof in first like that, there, and the bottom of it. So just going to get in the sides first, like that, then the bottom here. Okay, and what we'll do with the shack is we're just going to start it off around about here, the roof to begin with, and there we go, just a simple sort of roof, and time to get in the kind of bottom area of it like that, and here. That's about all that we need. For now, we might just want to straighten up this top line for the roof. Not necessary, but just being a bit pedantic here. That. Okay. And from here we're going to just put in some things like this bit of water that's running just across. I'll shift it a bit closer to the front, more sort of just indicate where it's at right here. Then we've got some trees as well, so a larger kind of tree here. Get in the trunk, and there's some other trees behind which we can also get in and indicate like this. I did have some trees coming out the back of the house like this in the sketch, and that actually worked quite well. So I'm going to just keep that in, just a little indication like that, but also work in these larger trees at the same time. So generally popping where they are. Some of them appear in much larger sort of groups, and some of them appear more by themselves. So just get those in more or less like that, and we can improvise and get a few more in later on if we need to, but for the time being this is fine. What we'll do is just get this little entrance to the house here as well. So we'll just get that in there. Yep. Okay, and let's have a look like that. Something like that. There's a few little details and things on the house which we can indicate later as well. What I liked was just having this fence come in here, which I have actually improvised to begin with, but it's a great idea because it gives a sense of, I guess, perspective, depth to the painting, and also helps to lead the viewer into the actual painting. So I want to just get in a few details like that there, and we've got, you know, area of the fence here, maybe a bit here as well where the water is. Shadows running across here which we can get in later, and also we've got some areas of bushes and that kind of thing around here. There's a tree that's closer there that we can get in. The great thing is these kind of branches that just come up here with the larger trees. I think that's going to work quite well in the finished painting. There's also a tree I've put in here with the other one. So again, just a bit of indication as to where it is. Another thing I want to do is also add in the figure. So I'll keep the figure actually just around this same area. I might put them about here, like that. And there we go, just hit the body and then some legs like that. Just tidy that up a bit. There we go. And walking forwards, and we can have another figure here, just closer to the front, maybe standing there to greet the other one as well. Another thing I like is just some of these little lines coming off like that, perspective lines, but also could indicate things like crops. As well, which I had in the original. And lastly, some mountains. So initially I wanted to have one sort of large mountain shape in the back, and I ended up putting another mountain shape near the front, and I actually enjoyed the look of that, and I actually like the look of that. So we're going to go ahead and give that a try and pop in the mountains in the far back first. That. Oops, just erase this. I want to get this line in pretty cleanly there, and there. Maybe redo this section of the mountain as well. Like that. Fantastic. And the rest of it we will improvise and get in later on. So looks like I am about ready to start, and I'll be picking up firstly a round brush, a little mop brush, and also a flat brush. So this is just a number 2 quill mop brush and a 3/4 flat brush. Also going to grab out the number 12 flat brush, a smaller version, just so that I'm ready to get in some of the colors and things like that here. So what we want to do is firstly go into the house and get in just some really basic sort of warm colors onto the house. So I'm picking up a bit of yellow ochre. Make sure that I don't have anything else on the brush, and also a teeny bit of orange in here, and I'm just going to go on top of that house like that, get in those colors very lightly, but you know, making sure that they're vibrant and showing enough for later. So just a little bit of color like that also on this little one here, like that. And just get a bit of water running off into there. That's really about all that I want to do. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is get into the sky, and I'll be picking up a bit of cobalt blue to start off with and mixing that in with a teeny bit of purple. So just dropping that into the sky like that. Keep it pretty light. You don't want to go too dark for the sky. So just going down and just add more water to the mix as you go down. And what you want to do is just go around to where these mountains are here, like that. Here, and just stop around where those mountains begin, just slightly underneath that line, like that. And what I'm going to do is let that sort of dry off a little bit and pick up some, let me have a look here, I'm just going to go pick up a little bit of neutral tint, tiny bit of neutral tint and purple, and I'll just drop some little cloud-like shapes running through the sky like this. Just a little bit here and there to keep things interesting, but I don't really want to overdo it. Just make sure that got a bit of variation in the sky wash. Really helps. So we'll leave that to do its thing, and while that's happening, I'm going to grab myself this little flat brush, actually this one here, the 3/4 inch, and mix up a little bit of cobalt blue. Let's have a look here, cobalt blue, and a bit of the neutral tint as well in there, a bit of the purple. Just drop that in and see how it looks. Okay, great. And the idea is that we want it to be wet into wet, so this is why I kind of gone over this area before with that light wash, and you just want this to blend in nicely to that background like this. Nice soft edges going up, indicating these sort of distant mountains. It's really all you want to do. Okay. While I'm at it, I'm going to just add a teeny bit of color to these trees. So just a bit of green, a bit of sap green. This is all just a very light wash of color. I might use a smaller flat brush actually for this part. Just a light wash of this green to indicate some of these trees and things out the back, though definitely going to be going over it later on in a darker sort of color anyway, but I like to do this so that we have a different range of tones. Okay, so checking how this is at the moment. Main thing is I do want a really crisp line on top of this area of house here. So what I'm going to do is actually give this a dry off and go in with the second round of these mountains. So I'm just going to bring this down a little bit further. I'll grab the hairdryer to speed up this process. Okay, so I'm going to be grabbing myself some 𝗀𝗶𝘃𝗍 and even some ultramarine. Let's have a look getting in these mountains that are closer. So we want to make sure that we've got this nice crisp line on the house. So going through and getting that in properly, just in one quick go like that. And then we can just indicate some of these mountains coming through the back. And here as well, just going through the side of the house. Bit of negative painting for the trees, these shrubs here as well. We can probably dull them down later or get them in darker if we need to further on down the track. Okay. And do this side as well. Let's get in a darker colour, just a bit of neutral tint mixed in with the blue. There we go. Cut around that side of the house and here as well, like that. And let's go ahead and do this one, like that. There. Okay. Very crucial point here where we're just doing a lot of cutting around work, and that's probably about as careful as you need to be in this painting. Some areas you can get away with just being a lot looser. So moving down the page, I'm going to pick up some sap green using just a normal flat brush. I'm going to use a larger flat brush so that I can get more of this paint in, and drop that in. I want it to be very light green coming through. Cutting around there, and also the base of this house too. So just cutting around the figures. This there. There we go. More green. This is just sap green, very diluted version of it anyway. And we'll go get that all in like this. There we go. Bit of blending. And around about here is where we have the water, just on the right hand side. So I'm going to just grab some blue, drop that in here. This is just some, what is it? Cobalt blue. Just to indicate a lake or something like that there. Not even taken much time to get in that detail. And cutting around the figures, we're going to just move through now and get in a wash of green through pretty much the entire painting. And I'm going to go over this section just in the green. I know we can probably cut around the poles and everything, but it's just going to be easier, and the wash is going to look nicer if I just go through it. Same here with the green at the bottom. I'm just wanting to get in a very light wash, and we can put in some brown and things here in the bottom to get it to darken up more. And more of this sap green through here, like that. Okay, fantastic. So, kind of liking how that has turned out, and while I can, I'm just going to get in a few little bits of textures and stuff like that that I wasn't able to get in with the original sketch. So what I'll do is just pick up this little brush here, and I'm going to grab some blue paint, some thicker blue paint, just start flicking some bits on here just to get some textures and things going on. You won't barely be able to notice it, but I just want to give that a try. I have a few little bits and pieces coming through to keep things interesting. Okay, and I'll get this dried off now. So I'm going to be picking up a bit of neutral tint, and we'll work on getting in this a little bit of darker colour on the bottom part of the house. So I've got some neutral tint with some blue mixed together. So just a bit of this colour here underneath the roof. Just make it a bit darker. So using a little flat brush for this effect. That. Okay, check out this left hand side. I'm going to use the round brush, little round brush, leave a tiny highlight here, and that left hand side, and just get in some colour like that, join that on there to that right hand side. Okay. This little bit here, the door, get that in, and the same thing goes for this little one here. So just some darkness underneath, and we're going to go colour that in. Add that darkness underneath. Okay. Also want to get a shadow running to the right hand side, so I'm going to just join that on like this. Indicate that shadow there. Okay, so some more details on the trees, but I'm going to pick up a larger round brush. This is a number 8 round brush, I think it is. It was a number 8. So using just some of the sap green and also other greens, I've got a bit of emerald green as well. Here what we can do is just essentially add in some of the trees, especially this one here that's a tiny bit closer. Get a little bit more body into that tree. That's all you need to do, something like that. And you know, if it's too light, add in a bit of colour, a bit of blue to darken it up like this. And you know, we've got these ones here in the background which we can kind of fiddle around a little bit as well. But you know, it's up to you. If you want to leave them as they are, you can go ahead. I'm just going to add in a bit of colour to the right hand side of them like that. Okay, and also I do want to get in these indications of kind of rose too, so I'm just picking up a bit more green, and we'll go ahead and just indicate, dry off the brush a bit first, so like that. Right. Okay. Right. So having a look at what else I might be able to add. Behind the house, I just want to add some darker trees. So neutral tint plus green, just darken that down. And I am going to do this, yep, just a extra darkness in some areas to indicate some trees. Maybe use this larger round brush as well. I think this will make things look a bit looser and okay, a bit here, there, some darker trees, quite important, have some variations in shapes here in the back. In fact, I used to have some houses here which I haven't added into this one, I've forgotten to, but it's easy enough to indicate. So we might, for example, turn this one into a house, and what I'm going to do is just get a shape, a kind of a darker shape running across like that, and that's just indicating the bottom of a little house or a shack, that kind of thing. And you can outline a bit of detail on the top there. It's not a huge deal. And trees as well, I just want to add in a bit of some trunks to them or something like that. Very simple indications here at the back. We don't want to make them too complicated and stick out too much, because then it's going to just look unbalanced, because it is the background after all. Okay, so I'll leave that for the time being. What I'm going to do is now start working a bit on the foreground shapes and some of these little poles and things. So I'm picking up a bit of burnt umber, quite dark, and we'll start getting in indication of these little poles, posts, fence posts, whatever you call them, like that. Here, have some running at the back like that, and I have some more that kind of get a little bit closer to the person here, and near to the water, like that. Great. And some darkness here in the front. I do want to add some greenish colour here to indicate like a tree or something like that. A bit of blue as well. There, right the way to the border. This is I found this to help kind of frame the painting in the sketch, so I decided to keep this in like that. So if you've got a little craft knife, something like that, you can actually go in and scratch off a little bit of paint like that to get some small highlights running through this dark shape here. Okay. Great. So what I'll do now is just start working on these trees a bit. Neutral tint. I need this to be pretty dark. I'm going to go in like this, getting this large sort of tree shape coming straight up and exiting there. I've probably gone a bit too much down this area here. I've covered off some of those houses that I drew in, painted in a bit earlier, but that's okay. And off just some little dry brush strokes like that, and some detail on this tree there, that. Connect this on. And on the other side, we want to do the same thing as well. So I'm going to use the same brush. We'll come in around about here and bring that up. That it's larger sort of branches just going up. And I'll swap to a smaller round brush, pick up this same paint, dry the brush a little, and we can now go in and get in. And we'll just use this large one to get in the bigger branches first. And that. Let's swap to the little one for some more little branches and things like that. So we got here. Bit of a play around. Okay. That looks good. For the ground, I'm going to get in a light wash of blue running across the ground here to indicate some shadows and things like that just being cast. If I can grab the mop brush, this will make it a lot easier. But I'm just adding a bit of darkness over the top like that to indicate some shadows. That's all I'm doing. Coming in from the left hand side. There. That's about it. Some details on the figures. I'm going to get one in. So look, maybe we'll go with some kind of warmer color on this one, a bit of orange for the shirt or whatever. That. Leave the legs, and for the other one, let's go with a bit of kind of red color, warmer color, like that. There. Bit of neutral tint that I'm picking up now, and I'm just going to get in the legs. A bit more water on there. So we'll look at the other one, just an indication like that. We're walking in this direction. And maybe like a shadow just running across like that slightly. You know, we've also got shadows for the poles and things, which I'm just going to indicate slightly, a little bit like that. Looking good. Okay. Darken up some areas here in the foreground. Give it a quick dry off. So got my round brush and add just a bit of colour, a bit of red to the heads of these figures, just a tad of that, maybe the arms, like that. We can even indicate maybe they've got, this person's got a bag or something like that that they are carrying. Check out these houses. So I'll just darken underneath the roof here, just to exaggerate that shadow in some parts of the house, windows and things like that too.
there. There. Darken these on the right hand side. Larger round brush to just redo that. And I'm doing this just to show that there's a shadow, I guess, a darker area on the right hand side. There. Okay, a few little stray brush strokes here and there that I will add in. That. Just to get rid of all this super light green area, and just put in a few birds. Pop on a bit of hair. And finishing touches, what I'll do is just join up the fence with a really dark neutral tint. Some areas anyway, we didn't have to join all of them up, but fantastic. And we'll leave it as that.
Check out these tutorials down the side here. I've got a couple of playlists that will help you get some ideas and improve your watercolors.